So if you were to just kind of take a step back and look at your life right now, chances are there's this massive goal that you're putting off.
Oh, almost certainly.
Yeah, like maybe it's a total career pivot, or maybe it's finally starting that business, learning a language, or, you know, just getting your physical health back on track. You have the idea, right? You have this underlying desire, but you are just stuck in this holding pattern.
Yeah, the classic holding pattern.
Exactly. You're waiting for the stars to align, waiting for the right moment, basically waiting to feel ready.
Yes.
So today we are analyzing a framework, this highly concentrated script we found titled Stop Waiting, Change Your Life. And it just completely dismantles that instinct.
It really does. It tears it down.
It does. And so our mission for this deep dive is to get to the absolute bottom of these psychological roadblocks, the ones that keep us all trapped in this like endless cycle of waiting.
And ideally, figure out how to escape it.
Right. More importantly, to extract a practical, actionable system to break that paralysis, starting today.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because on the surface, the idea of, you know, stop waiting, it sounds like standard aggressive motivational advice.
Just do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. But there is some deeply profound behavioral psychology at play under the hood here.
There really is. I mean, we are essentially looking at a diagnostic manual for human hesitation.
Wow, a diagnostic manual. I like that.
Yeah, because to really get the value out of this source, we have to approach it not just as a pep talk, but as an empirical exploration of human decision-making software, essentially.
Right.
We need to put this paralysis under the microscope.
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with a fundamental cognitive glitch.
A glitch.
Exactly. A glitch where we know exactly what we want, yet we actively convince ourselves that tomorrow or next month or, you know, next year.
Always later.
Right. Always later.
Right.
We convince ourselves that later is a biologically safer time to start than right now.
That is so true. And to fix that glitch, the material we're analyzing points out that we first have to diagnose the underlying cause of that delay. Because people will routinely spend decades, literal decades of their lives just waiting.
Decades. It's wild.
It is. They wait for perfect economic timing. They wait until they have more capital saved up, or they wait until they magically just wake up feeling confident one day.
Which never happens.
Never happens. Because the underlying cause isn't a lack of resources, and it's not a lack of time. The root cause is fear.
It is. And it's fear wearing a very sophisticated disguise of practicality.
Ooh, disguise of practicality. That's good.
Well, you know, our brains are just incredibly adept at rationalizing our anxieties. We don't like to admit that we're terrified.
Right. Nobody wants to say, I'm scared.
Exactly. So we tell ourselves we're just being prudent or calculating.
We're doing our research.
Yes, exactly. Researching to death.
And it's a very specific cocktail of fears, right? The text talks about fear of failure, fear of making unrecoverable mistakes, and then the heaviest one of all, fear of social judgment.
Oh, absolutely. The social aspect is huge.
It's that primal terror of, like, what will my peers think if I launch this thing and it just completely flops?
Right.
And the core takeaway that really anchors this whole framework is that the concept of being ready is a complete biological myth.
A total myth.
The individuals who actually achieve what they set out to do, they start way before they are ready. They learn the mechanics in the trenches, basically. They recognize that confidence does not precede action. Confidence is a byproduct built by starting.
That's a crucial distinction.
Yeah, and when I was going through these notes, it immediately brought to mind an analogy about swimming.
Oh, the swimming pool analogy. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So waiting for confidence before you start a new endeavor is exactly like refusing to get into a swimming pool until you already know how to swim.
Which is logically impossible.
It's completely absurd when you picture it. Like, you can stand at the edge of the pool for a decade reading physics textbooks about human buoyancy.
Right, the fluid dynamics of the freestyle stroke.
Yes. You can watch thousands of hours of Olympic swimmers on YouTube just analyzing their breathing techniques to death.
Yeah.
And you can wait until you feel intellectually ready, right? Fully confident in your theoretical swimming knowledge.
But it's all just theory.
Exactly. Because the millisecond your body hits the cold water, their nervous system's gonna panic. Because you've never actually felt the resistance of the water.
Yep.
You simply cannot learn to swim on dry land. The sensory input of the environment changes everything.
What's fascinating here is how the brain actively deceives us to keep us standing on that dry land.
Deceives us. How so?
Well, If you look at it from an evolutionary perspective, our brains are wired for predictive certainty.
Okay.
They want to keep us safe, they want to conserve metabolic energy, and they really want to avoid social ostracization.
Which makes sense.
Right, because back in our hunter-gatherer days, getting kicked out of the tribe meant literal death.
Wow. Okay, so the stakes were real.
Very real. So your amygdala, the fear center, flags the unknown as a lethal threat.
Even if it's just like starting a podcast.
Even then, your brain sends this urgent message saying, do not jump in yet. We don't have enough data on this environment.
We might look foolish and get cast out of the tribe.
Exactly. And we misinterpret that deeply primal protective mechanism as a rational, logical signal that we just aren't prepared.
We treat fear as a stop sign.
Yes, when in reality, it's just an environmental sensor. Fear doesn't magically evaporate while you just stand on the edge of the pool.
Right.
Courage isn't the absence of fear. It is the physical act of moving forward despite the physiological alarm bells ringing in your head.
You just have to move with the alarms ringing.
You do. It is only through that forward movement that the alarm system eventually shuts off.
Because you get into the water and realize it isn't as cold or as deep as your brain predicted it would be.
Exactly. You splash around, maybe you swallow a little chlorine.
Right, cough a bit.
Yeah, but you realize you didn't drown. And that survival data is what creates the confidence.
Survival data.
The action generates the empirical evidence that your brain needs to actually believe you can handle the situation.
So the confidence is the reward.
The confidence is the reward you get for surviving the risk, which means it can never realistically be the prerequisite for taking it.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so now that we understand why we delay this whole evolutionary fear masquerading as the myth of readiness,
Right.
we have to look at the actual tangible cost of that delay.
The opportunity cost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because understanding the neurobiology is super helpful, but understanding the opportunity cost is what actually creates the urgency to move.
Yeah, we need that fire.
We do. And the framework sets up this incredibly stark A-B test between two hypothetical individuals, person A and person B.
It's a very clean way to isolate the variable of action, actually.
It really is. So person A decides to start today. They aren't ready. They're terrified of failing. Their business plan is totally half-baked, but they pull the trigger anyway.
They jump in the pool.
They jump in. Now, person B decides to wait for the elusive perfect moment. They tell themselves they need to read like 3 more books on the subject, save up a little more of a buffer, and maybe wait for interest rates to drop.
The standard excuses.
Right. So fast forward exactly 1 year. Person A now has proprietary knowledge. They have tangible market progress. And they have real-world scars and experience.
It followed some chlorine.
Exactly. While person B only has a more refined, highly articulated set of excuses.
Wow.
Because time moves relentlessly, regardless of what we do.
It does.
Days slip into weeks, weeks bleed into months, and before you know it, an entire decade has just evaporated. The text argues that dreams rarely fail because people are biologically incapable of achieving them.
Right.
They fail because people simply never cross the starting line.
It really forces us to completely reevaluate our definition of failure.
How do you mean?
Well, we are culturally conditioned to view failure as this big dramatic event, right?
Yeah.
Like launching a product and having it publicly crash and burn.
Yeah, or stepping onto a stage and forgetting all your lines.
Exactly. But the most insidious, statistically common form of failure is entirely invisible.
Invisible failure.
It's the failure to launch. It's the
Yeah.
slow, quiet decay of potential while you just sit there waiting for a green light that doesn't exist.
But isn't there a valid argument for preparation?
Yeah.
Where is the line between smart planning and just making excuses?
That's a fair question.
Because let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
If I decide I want to open, say, a brick and mortar bakery,
Okay.
I shouldn't just impulsively quit my job today and sign a 10-year commercial lease tomorrow with absolutely zero business plan or capital.
No, you definitely shouldn't.
That seems like a recipe for financial ruin, not courage.
It absolutely would be. And differentiating between bounded preparation and unbounded procrastination is the crux of this entire discussion.
Okay, bounded versus unbounded.
Right. Reckless impulsivity is not the goal here. Gathering data, assessing risk, smart planning, those are essential components of any successful venture.
So where's the line?
The critical dividing line is that genuine preparation has a highly defined endpoint.
Ah.
It is structured around measurable, time-bound milestones.
Like giving yourself a deadline.
Exactly. Saying, I am going to research commercial lease rates in my target neighborhood for the next 14 days. And on Friday the 14th at 5:00 p.m., I will email 3 specific realtors to schedule walkthroughs.
That's very specific.
That is preparation. It is anchored to a definitive action trigger.
So the planning phase has an expiration date.
Yes. Excuses, on the other hand, are open-ended and amorphous.
It just kind of float there.
Right. They rely on vague external conditions aligning, like, I'll start looking at bakery leases when the commercial real estate market feels a bit more stable.
Or when things calm down at my current job.
Exactly. Excuses are dangerously comfortable because they relieve you of the immediate heavy pressure to act today.
They let you off the hook.
They provide the psychological illusion that you are still actively committed to the dream while effectively pausing the clock on your own life.
Wow. Pausing the clock.
But time passing is the ultimate equalizer. The universe doesn't care about your untapped potential or your elaborate intentions. It only registers and rewards your physical actions.
That is, the idea that time only registers your actions is incredibly sobering.
It's a harsh reality.
It is, because realizing the massive compounding cost of that open-ended inaction, the months and years of lost momentum, that can honestly trigger a new kind of paralysis.
Oh, absolutely. The pressure.
Right. If the stakes of waiting are that phenomenally high, the pressure to make a massive leap feels enormous.
Yeah.
Which just spikes the fear we talked about in the first section.
It creates a feedback loop of anxiety.
Exactly. So how do we actually initiate forward movement without triggering that paralyzing amygdala response?
The answer proposed here is brilliant in its simplicity. We shrink the target.
We artificially lower the barrier to entry so the brain doesn't register it as a threat.
Yes. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the solution to massive life-altering change isn't massive life-altering action.
Counterintuitive, right?
Very big tectonic shifts in your life actually require ridiculously small, repeated actions.
Small steps.
The framework provides some incredibly grounded examples of this. Like, if your goal is to become fluent in a new language, you don't need to book a one-way ticket to a foreign country or commit to 3 hours of study a day.
That's way too big of a target.
Just learn 5 new vocabulary words today. That's it.
Very doable.
Or if your goal is to get your physical health back, you don't need to join a CrossFit gym and train until you throw up. Just walk out your front door for 15 minutes. If you want to start a business, you don't need to build a massive website today. Just watch one tutorial on a single new skill.
Just one. It's all about physics and momentum. Think about the activation energy required to climb a massive mountain.
Okay.
If you stand at base camp and stare at the summit, which is miles up in the freezing clouds, your brain is going to short circuit.
It's going to say, no way.
Exactly. It will calculate the caloric cost and the danger and say, I cannot survive that climb today, so I will stay in the tent.
Right.
But you don't have to climb the mountain today. You just have to tie your boots.
You isolate the very first sequence of the behavior.
You tie your boots, and then you just need to take one single step out of the tent.
Yeah.
Taking one step doesn't trigger the panic response.
And this connects beautifully back to the neurobiology of confidence we were analyzing earlier.
Oh, how so?
Well, why do these micro actions, these ridiculously small targets, why do they work so well from a psychological standpoint?
Yeah, why?
Because every single time you complete that 15-minute walk, or you successfully memorize those 5 vocabulary words, you are accumulating undeniable empirical evidence that you are capable of initiating change.
Oh, wow.
In behavioral psychology, this is essentially casting a vote for your new identity.
You are building a track record with yourself.
You are manufacturing self-trust. If you promise yourself you'll walk for 15 minutes and you actually execute on that promise, you are proving to your own brain that you are a reliable entity.
That you're not just full of talk.
Exactly. You are a person who follows through. And that internal self-trust is the bedrock of confidence.
So the confidence comes from the walking.
You didn't sit on the couch and wait for the confidence to arrive so you could go for a walk. You generated the confidence out of thin air by walking.
That's amazing.
It creates a positive neurological feedback loop. The action releases a small hit of dopamine. The result breeds confidence, and that new baseline of confidence significantly lowers the friction required to take the next slightly larger action tomorrow.
So you shrink the target, you start tying your boots, you take those daily 15-minute walks, And you slowly build this behavioral momentum. But let's look at the reality of human nature for a second.
Always a good idea.
You will inevitably hit friction. Life gets incredibly chaotic. You get physically exhausted. Maybe your kids get sick.
Something always comes up.
Exactly. And you will be deeply tempted to revert to your old, comfortable, open-ended excuses.
It's human nature.
So the next phase of this framework focuses on how to actively rewire your thought process to sustain that momentum over the long term, even when the initial novelty wears off.
This is the critical transition from merely taking isolated actions to fundamentally altering your cognitive defaults.
Right. And the material calls out the most common, universal excuses we all weaponize against ourselves.
Well, let's hear them.
I'm too old to start a completely new career.
Classic.
I'm too young and inexperienced for anyone to take my business seriously.
Yeah.
I don't have enough seed money. I don't have enough free time in the day. Or I'm just not naturally talented at coding or writing or sales.
The talent myth.
We've all heard them, and we've all undoubtedly used them. But the critical mindset shift demanded here is changing the fundamental syntax of how we ask questions. When confronted with a massive challenge, instead of asking, why can't I do it? You have to aggressively train your brain to ask, how can I do it?
And that is a much heavier cognitive lift than it sounds.
Is it? So what does this all mean? Let's look at the mechanics of this. Why is it so much easier, so much more natural for our brains to default to why can't I instead of how can I?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of how the human brain manages energy, it comes down to cognitive load and metabolic conservation.
Okay, metabolic conservation.
Right. The brain is an energy hog. It uses about 20% of your body's calories, despite being a tiny fraction of your weight.
Wow, 20%.
Yeah. So it is always looking for shortcuts to save energy.
Oh, I see.
When you ask yourself, why can't I do this? Your brain acts like a highly efficient, obedient defense attorney.
A defense attorney.
Exactly. It quickly accesses your existing insecurities
Wow.
and compiles a watertight logical case to protect you from the exertion of trying.
Oh man, that is so true.
It presents the evidence. Well, you can't do it because you only have $500 in the bank. You are exhausted after your commute, and you don't have an MBA.
Case closed.
Case closed. The jury is dismissed. You get to stay on the couch.
Wow.
And that process requires almost zero cognitive energy because it relies on pre-existing beliefs.
It gives you a fully rationalized, airtight permission slip to give up.
It feels logical, which is exactly why it's so dangerous.
Right.
But when you force the question, how can I do it? You are pulling your brain out of its passive default mode. You're forcing it into active, high-energy executive function.
You're making it work.
You're presenting it with a complex spatial puzzle to solve. Suddenly, your brain has to expend massive amounts of calories to look for structural loopholes, to map out alternative routes, and to identify hidden resources you haven't considered.
Like finding a free course online instead of paying for a degree.
Exactly. It is metabolically exhausting, which is why it feels so uncomfortable and hard, but it is the absolute only way to bypass those evolutionary excuses.
And navigating that discomfort ties directly into the next major pillar of this framework, which is adopting an internal locus of control, or basically taking total, unflinching responsibility for your outcomes.
Yeah.
The framework is uncompromising on this point. It states that your future depends almost entirely on your choices and your actions.
It's all on you.
Not on macroeconomic luck, not on what your parents did, and certainly not on waiting for perfect environmental conditions. You have to take complete ownership of the result.
Which is a terrifying proposition for the vast majority of people.
Why is this so terrifying?
Because saying the outcome is entirely up to me completely removes the psychological safety net. Being able to blame the economy or the algorithm or a bad boss when things go wrong.
Oh, right. We love having a scapegoat.
We do.
Yeah.
Taking total responsibility exposes you.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that exposure, and the genius of adopting this mindset, is that it is the most radically liberating thing a human being can do. Because responsibility is the exact same thing as control. And control is the ultimate form of power.
That's a great way to look at it.
If your failures are entirely your fault, then your successes are entirely your doing too.
You get to own the wins.
Yes, it removes you from the role of a passive victim of circumstance and grants you complete agency over your own trajectory. You are no longer a passenger waiting for the weather to clear. You are the captain of the vessel navigating the storm.
And, as the captain, you also have to manage your expectations about the speed of the journey.
Oh, definitely.
Because the underlying argument here makes it very clear that real, sustainable growth is not instantaneous.
No, it's not.
We live in an era of same-day delivery and instant digital gratification. But biological and skill-based growth takes agonizing time.
It's slow.
You don't become fluent in Mandarin in a week. You don't reverse years of a sedentary lifestyle and get perfectly fit after one brutal workout.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be amazing, but no. And you certainly don't build unshakable identity-level confidence overnight.
Right.
You have to keep executing those micro-actions even when the visible progress feels painfully slow. Because every single one of those small steps is compounding in the background, even when the daily difference is completely imperceptible to the naked eye.
You can think of it like the root system of a bamboo tree.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah, for the first few years, you water the ground, you tend the soil, and absolutely nothing happens above the surface.
Just looking at a patch of dirt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A casual observer would think you were crazy for watering dirt. But underground, the bamboo is building this massive, complex, invisible architecture of roots.
Wow.
It is establishing the structural integrity required to support massive growth.
And then what happens?
And then in year 5, it shoots up 80 feet into the air in a matter of weeks.
80 feet.
The microactions are the root system. You can't have the sudden, visible success without the years of invisible compounding root growth.
The invisible architecture that completely reframes the frustration of a plateau.
It really does.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to bring this theoretical analysis directly back to the practical reality of you, the listener. The final overarching message from the material we've unpacked today is as urgent as it gets. Human life is shockingly short.
It goes by fast.
It does. Do not spend the best decades of it standing on the edge of the pool, waiting for a mythical feeling of perfect readiness. Today's opportunity is already here. It's sitting right in front of you, waiting for an action trigger.
You do not need to have the entire 10-year master plan mapped out to the final detail.
No.
You just need to initiate the very first sequence. Shrink the target to something absurdly manageable, stay relentlessly consistent with that small action, and rely on the feedback loop of the real world to teach you the rest as you move forward.
So think about that one specific goal you've been delaying while listening to this. The framework highlights common hurdles like starting a YouTube channel, applying for that senior role you think is a massive reach, or finally sitting down to outline chapter 1 of that book, or taking the very first step toward addressing your health. Whatever that terrifying, exciting thing is for you, stop waiting for the stars to align. Shrink the target and take one micro-action today.
And as we close out our analysis, I want to leave you with one final practical thought to ponder.
Let's hear it.
We've established that the feeling of readiness is a biological illusion, and that true confidence is the neurological reward you get after you take the leap.
Right.
So if confidence only comes after the action, what is one tiny, completely risk-free action you can take in the next 5 minutes that might trigger the very confidence you've been waiting for all these years?
An incredibly powerful question to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the psychology of action and taking control of your life. We hope this conversation inspires you to stop analyzing the water, tie those boots, and just take that first step. We'll catch you on the next one.